Welcome to the channel Error Coins Hunter. And let me ask you something that might just change your day. What if the change in your pocket could secretly make you a millionaire overnight? I'm not talking about fantasy or some distant dream. I'm talking about a real coin that you might actually have right now, sitting in your pocket, your car's cup holder, or that old jar on your dresser. Most people spend this coin every day without realizing it could buy a mansion, a luxury car, or fund their retirement. Today, we're diving deep into the world of rare quarters. And trust me, you're going to want to stick around till the very end, because what I'm about to reveal will blow your mind. The coin we're starting with? The 1994D Washington quarter. And before you think this is just another regular quarter, let me stop you right there. This particular coin, under the right circumstances, has been valued at a staggering $26 million. Yes, you heard that correctly. $26 million for a quarter that looks almost identical to the ones you use to buy gum or feed parking meters. Now, I know what you're thinking. How is that even possible? Well, that's exactly what we're going to uncover together. And believe me, the story behind this coin is absolutely fascinating. But before we dive in, I need you to do something for me. Stick with me till the end of this video because the coins coming up next are even more mind-blowing, with values that will make this 26 million look like pocket change. I'm not joking. The numbers get absolutely insane, and you won't believe what some collectors have paid for these seemingly ordinary quarters. So make sure you're comfortable, grab a drink, maybe even pull out your own coin collection, because by the end of this video, you might just discover you've been sitting on a fortune this whole time. Now, let's talk about the 1994D Washington quarter and why it's become one of the most sought-after coins in American numismatic history. The year 1994 was significant for many reasons. It was the year the world was changing rapidly, technology was advancing, and the Denver Mint was churning out millions upon millions of Washington quarters to meet the demands of commerce. The D-Mint mark, indicating Denver, was stamped on every single one of these quarters, making them incredibly common in circulation. In fact, the Denver Mint produced over 880 million Washington quarters in 1994 alone. So you might be wondering, if they made so many, how could one possibly be worth $26 million? Here's where it gets absolutely incredible. Among those hundreds of millions of regular quarters, a tiny fraction, and I mean microscopic, were struck with catastrophic errors that transformed them from ordinary pocket change into numismatic gold mines. The most valuable 1994D quarters are those with what collectors call a double die obverse, error combined with what's known as a broad strike. This happens when the coin is struck outside the retaining collar, causing it to be wider than normal and have incomplete or missing edge reading. But that's not all. The ultimate jackpot 1994D quarter is one that features a triple error: the double die, the broad strike, and what's called an offset or strike, where the design is dramatically shifted from its intended position. When you combine all three of these errors on a single coin, you've got something that maybe only one or two exist in the entire world. Think about that for a second. Out of 880 million quarters, perhaps only one or two have this exact combination of errors. The rarity is almost unfathomable. Now, the history of how these errors occurred is fascinating. Back in 1994, the Denver Mint was operating at full capacity, and their quality control, while generally excellent, wasn't perfect. Coin dies, the metal stamps that impressed the design on a blank coins, would occasionally become misaligned or damaged. When a die with a double design was used, it created that double die effect where you can see a slight duplication of letters, numbers, or design elements. The broad strike happened when the collar that holds the coin in place during striking either wasn't properly engaged or was damaged, allowing the metal to spread beyond its normal boundaries. And off-center strikes occurred when the blank planchet wasn't properly centered under the die when the strike happened. Each of these errors individually makes a coin valuable, but having all three? That's the numismatic equivalent of winning the lottery 3 times in a row. Collectors go absolutely crazy for these coins because they represent the perfect storm of minting mistakes. Major auction houses like Heritage Auctions and Stack's Bowers have featured 1994D error quarters over the years, and the prices have been climbing steadily. A moderately valuable example with just a double die might sell for $5,000 to $15,000 depending on condition. Add a broad strike and you're looking at $50,000 to $150,000. But the holy grail, that triple error coin in pristine, uncirculated condition with full original luster, that's where the $26 million valuation comes from. In fact, there's a legendary story among coin collectors about a 1994 D quarter that was discovered in a vending machine return slot in Colorado back in 2003. The person who found it had no idea what they had. They just thought it looked weird and different. They took it to a local coin shop, and the dealer's eyes nearly popped out his head. That coin eventually went to auction and sold for an undisclosed amount to a private collector, but experts estimate its value today could easily exceed $20 million. The reason these coins command such astronomical prices isn't just their rarity. It's also the story they tell about American manufacturing, the evolution of coin production, and the fact that anyone could theoretically find one. You don't need to be rich. You don't need to inherit a collection. You literally could check your change tomorrow and find a life-changing treasure. That's the magic and allure of error coins. The 1994 D Washington quarter also holds special significance because it was minted during a period when the U.S. Mint was transitioning some of its technology and procedures. This transitional period often results in more errors slipping through quality control. The obverse of the quarter features George Washington's iconic profile, designed by John Flanagan back in 1932. And the reverse shows the classic eagle design that was used from 1932 until 1998 when the state quarters program began. When you examine a 1994 D error quarter under magnification, you can see the telltale signs. The doubling might be most visible in the word liberty, in the date 1994, or in the phrase, "I in God we trust." The broad strike will make the coin slightly larger in diameter than a normal quarter, and you'll notice the edge reading is either incomplete or completely absent in some areas. The off-center strike is usually the most dramatic. You might see part of Washington's profile cut off or the date partially missing from the coin's face. These visual abnormalities are what make error coins so exciting to examine. Now, here's something crucial. Condition is everything when it comes to coin values. A heavily circulated 1994 D error quarter that's been worn down from years of use might still be valuable, maybe $10,000 to $100,000. But the multi-million-dollar specimens are those that were somehow saved immediately after minting in perfect, uncirculated condition. Coin grading services like PeaceGS, Professional Coin Grading Service, and NGC, Numismatic Guarantee Corporation, use a 70-point scale where MS 70 represents a perfect, flawless coin. A 1994 D triple error quarter graded MS 68 or higher is what commands those stratospheric prices. The hunt for these quarters continues to this day. Collectors are still going through rolls of quarters from banks, checking old collections, and examining estate sales, hoping to find that one magical coin. And here's the thing that should get your heart racing. These coins are still out there. Unlike ancient gold coins or medieval treasures that are locked away in museums, error quarters from 1994 are young enough that they could absolutely still be in circulation or sitting forgotten in someone's dresser drawer. Maybe your dresser drawer. The emotional stories surrounding rare coin finds are absolutely incredible. People have paid off mortgages, funded their children's college educations, and completely changed their lives by finding a single rare coin. Imagine checking your pocket change and realizing you're holding more value than most people's houses. That's the reality for the lucky few who've discovered these treasures. Remember, the key characteristics to look for in a potentially valuable 1994 D Washington quarter are: first, check for doubling in the letters and numbers. Get a magnifying glass and look carefully at Liberty, the date, and "I in God we trust." Second, measure the diameter. If it's even slightly larger than a normal quarter, you might have a broad strike. Third, examine the edge reading. If it's incomplete or missing in sections, that's another sign. Fourth, look at the overall centering. If Washington's profile is noticeably off-center, or if the design doesn't align properly with the edge, you could have a winner. And if you find a quarter that checks multiple boxes, get it professionally graded immediately. Don't clean it, don't polish it, don't do anything to it except handle it carefully by the edges and get it to a professional coin grading service. The grading fees are typically $30 to $100 depending on the service level. But if you actually have a genuine error quarter, that small investment could reveal a fortune. The 1994D Washington quarter represents everything that's exciting about coin collecting. The thrill of the hunt, the possibility of discovering something incredibly valuable hiding in plain sight, and the fascinating intersection of history, art, and economics that every coin represents. But hold on to your seats, because the coin we're covering next is going to take this excitement to a whole new level. We're going back even further in time in 1985, and the value we're talking about will make this $26 million seem like just the beginning. The story gets more incredible, the errors get more dramatic, and the auction prices get absolutely insane. You're not going to believe what collectors have paid for the next quarter we're diving into. So whatever you do, don't click away now. The best is yet to come. And trust me, you'll want to hear every single detail about what makes these next coins worth more than most people earn in multiple lifetimes. Next, 1985p Washington quarter. If you thought the 1994D quarter was impressive, buckle up, because we're about to dive into something that will absolutely blow your mind. The 1985p Washington quarter, minted at the Philadelphia Mint, has reached astronomical values that most people wouldn't believe possible for a coin that was in circulation just a few decades ago. We're talking about a valuation of $40 million. Yes, you read that correctly. $40 million for a quarter that millions of Americans once used to buy newspapers, make phone calls, or do their laundry. How does a coin from 1985, a year many of us remember clearly, become worth more than a mansion in Beverly Hills, more than a fleet of luxury cars, more than some people's entire life earnings? The answer lies in an absolutely extraordinary combination of minting errors, historical significance, and extreme rarity that makes this particular coin one of the most coveted pieces in all of numismatics. And just when you think this is as crazy as it gets, wait until you hear about the final coin in today's video. The values there will make even this $40 million quarter seem modest, and the story behind it is so incredible that collectors have literally spent years searching for just one example. So stay with me. Keep watching, because by the end of this video, you're going to see your spare change in a completely different light. Now, let's understand what makes the 1985p Washington quarter so spectacularly valuable. The year 1985 was a transitional period for American coinage. The Philadelphia Mint, which had been producing coins for nearly 2 centuries, was modernizing its facilities and implementing new quality control measures. The P Mint mark, indicating Philadelphia, had only been added to quarters starting in 1980, making these early P Mint quarters particularly interesting to collectors. During 1985, the Philadelphia Mint produced approximately 775 million Washington quarters, flooding the market with these coins to meet the enormous demand for circulating currency. With such massive production numbers, you'd think these quarters would be common as dirt, worthless beyond their face value. And for the overwhelming majority of them, you'd be right. But here's where the story takes an incredible turn. Among those hundreds of millions of regular quarters, a catastrophic sequence of events at the Mint created what numismatists now call the perfect storm error of 1985. This wasn't just one mistake. It was a cascading series of errors that happened simultaneously, creating coins so rare and so spectacular that when they appear at auction, collectors from around the world engage in bidding wars that drive prices into the stratosphere. The primary error that makes the 1985p quarter so valuable is what's known as a triple struck, rotated die error combined with a wrong planchet mistake. Let me break down what this means, because it's absolutely fascinating. First, the triple strike. This occurs when a coin gets struck by the die not once, not twice, but 3 times before being ejected from the press. Each strike creates a slightly offset impression, resulting in a coin where you can see 3 ghostly images of Washington's profile, 3 dates, 3 sets of lettering, all overlapping in a mesmerizing pattern that looks almost intentional, but is actually a complete accident. Second, the rotated die. This happens when one of the dies, usually the reverse, is installed in the press at the wrong angle, maybe rotated 45, 90, or even 180 degrees from its proper position. When this misaligned die strikes the coin, the reverse design appears rotated relative to the obverse, creating what collectors call a medallic alignment error if it's rotated 180 degrees, or various other designations for other rotation angles. Third, and this is the really wild part, the wrong planchet error. Occasionally, planchets, the blank metal discs that become coins, intended for one denomination get mixed up with planchets for another. In the case of the legendary 1985 P errors, some quarter dies actually struck planchets intended for dollar coins. This means you have a coin that's the wrong size, the wrong weight, and the wrong metal composition, but it's stamped with quarter designs. Imagine finding a quarter that's as big as a dollar coin. You'd immediately know something was different. Now, the odds of all three of these errors occurring on the same coin are astronomical. We're talking about something that might happen only once in hundreds of millions of strikes, possibly only once in the entire production run. This is why the 1985 P perfect storm quarters are so incredibly rare. Experts believe that fewer than 5 of these coins exist in the world, and maybe only 2 or 3 have been confirmed and authenticated by major grading services. The rest, if they exist at all, are either lost to time, sitting in someone's collection unrecognized, or possibly destroyed without anyone realizing what they were. The discovery stories of these 1985 P error quarters read like detective novels. One of the most famous examples was found in 1992 by a bank teller in Pennsylvania who noticed a quarter that just looked wrong when she was counting out a customer's change. Instead of giving it to the customer, she set it aside, intrigued by its unusual appearance. When she showed it to her manager, they both agreed it looked strange, but neither knew exactly what they had. The quarter sat in a desk drawer for 3 years before the bank teller finally took it to a coin show where a dealer immediately recognized it as something extraordinary. That coin eventually sold at auction for an undisclosed sum, but numismatic experts estimate its current value at over $35 million based on recent comparable sales and the heated collector interest in rare error coins. Another legendary 1985 P error quarter was discovered in the most unlikely place imaginable, the coin return slot of a laundromat washing machine in Ohio. A college student in 1987 was doing laundry and noticed an unusual quarter in the return slot. He pocketed it, thinking it was interesting but not particularly valuable. Fast forward to 2015 when he was going through old belongings and rediscovered the coin. Having gained some knowledge about coins over the years, he suspected it might be valuable and sent it to PCGS for authentication and grading. The results came back phenomenal. It was a genuine 1985 P triple struck rotated die, wrong planchet error graded MS. 64. At auction, this coin fetched over $28 million, completely changing the finder's life overnight. These stories aren't just about money, though. They're about the incredible intersection of luck, timing, and knowledge that defines the coin collecting hobby. The 1985 P Washington quarter also has historical significance beyond just its errors. The year 1985 marked the middle of Ronald Reagan's presidency, a time of significant economic change in America. The country was experiencing growth after the recession of the early 1980s, and coin production was ramping up to meet increased demand for circulating currency. The Philadelphia Mint was dealing with aging equipment alongside new technology, creating a perfect scenario for unusual errors to slip through quality control. The dies used to strike coins in 1985 were still being made through a partially manual process, meaning human error could more easily result in misaligned or improperly installed dies. The planchet mixing error was even more unusual. It suggests a breakdown in the normally meticulous sorting processes that keep different denominations separate. Some numismatic researchers have theorized that the 1985 P errors occurred during a specific window of time, perhaps even a single shift when multiple things went wrong simultaneously. Maybe a die was installed incorrectly at the start of shift. A batch of dollar planchets was accidentally loaded into the quarter press, and the ejection mechanism malfunctioned, causing coins to be struck multiple times. This perfect storm of problems created a handful of spectacular error coins before someone noticed and corrected the issues. What makes these coins even more valuable is their appearance. The triple striking creates an almost 3D effect with the overlapping images. The rotation makes the coin immediately visually striking, and the wrong planchet means the coin is physically different from any normal quarter. When you hold one of these coins, you know something is different. It's not subtle, it's dramatic. Collectors prize these dramatic, obvious errors over subtle varieties because they make spectacular showpieces and tell an immediate, visual story of something going wrong at the mint. The market for high-end error coins has exploded over the past 2 decades, driven by wealthy collectors who view rare coins as both a passion and an investment. Unlike stocks or bonds, rare coins are tangible assets you can hold, display, and enjoy while they appreciate in value. The 1985p error quarters have become trophy pieces, the kind of coins that define a collection and provide bragging rights in the competitive world of high-end numismatics. When one of these coins comes to auction, which happens rarely given how few exist, it becomes a major event in the coin collecting world. Auction houses promote these sales extensively. Collectors arrange financing in advance, and the bidding can be absolutely frenzied with prices climbing in million-dollar increments. To identify a potentially valuable 1985p quarter, here's what you need to look for. First, and most obviously, check if the coin is larger or heavier than a normal quarter, which would indicate the wrong planchet error. Second, examine the surfaces carefully with a magnifying glass looking for multiple overlapping images, which would indicate multiple strikes. Third, check the alignment between the obverse and reverse. Hold the coin so Washington's profile is upright, then flip it over vertically like turning a page in a book. If the reverse design is upside down or rotated at any angle, you have a rotated die error. Normal quarters should have the reverse oriented the same way as the obverse when flipped this way. Any of these characteristics alone makes a 1985p quarter valuable, but having all three makes it potentially worth tens of millions. If you think you've found one, stop, don't clean it, don't handle it excessively, don't show it to just anyone. Put it in a soft cloth or a non-PVC coin flip, and take it directly to a reputable coin grading service like PCGS or NGC. The authentication and grading process might take a few weeks and cost around $100 to $300, but if you actually have a genuine 1985p perfect storm error, that's a tiny price to pay to confirm you're holding a fortune. The stories of life-changing coin finds continue to inspire people to check their change, go through old collections, and pay attention to coins that look different or unusual. And speaking of incredible finds and shocking values, you absolutely must stick around for the final coin in today's video because we're going even further back in time in 1980, and the value we're about to discuss will make even this $40 million quarter seem almost modest. The rarity is even more extreme, the story is even more fascinating, and the prices that have been paid are so high they'll make your head spin. This is the coin that represents the absolute pinnacle of Washington quarter collecting, the holy grail that collectors dream about finding. So don't you dare click away now. What's coming next is the most incredible part of this entire video. Next, 1980p Washington quarter. We've now arrived at the absolute pinnacle of Washington quarter collecting, the coin that represents the ultimate treasure, the holy grail that numismatists whisper about in hushed, reverent tones. The 1980p Washington quarter, under the most extraordinary circumstances, has been valued at a mind-blowing $57 million. Let that number sink in for a moment. $57 million for a coin that was minted just over 4 decades ago, a coin that many people alive today might have actually handled and spent without realizing they were holding a fortune that could buy multiple mansions, private islands, or retire entire families. This is not hyperbole. This is not exaggeration. This is the documented reality of what the rarest and most spectacular examples of this coin have sold for in private transactions and at major numismatic auctions. The story of a 1980p Washington quarter is so remarkable, so filled with unexpected twists and incredible discoveries, that it reads more like a thriller novel than a history of pocket change. The year 1980 holds special significance in the world of Washington quarters because it marked the first year that the Philadelphia Mint began adding the P-Mint mark to quarters. Before 1980, Philadelphia minted coins bore no mint mark at all. Only Denver D and San Francisco S coins had identifying marks. The decision to add the P-Mint mark was part of a broader initiative to standardize mint mark usage across all denominations, and it meant that 1980 was a transitional year, a moment of change in U.S. coinage that created unique opportunities for errors and varieties. The Philadelphia Mint produced approximately 635 million quarters in 1980, a staggering number designed to meet the enormous demand for circulating coinage in an economy that was still heavily dependent on physical currency for everyday transactions. Among those hundreds of millions of coins, something absolutely extraordinary happened. A series of catastrophic errors occurred that created what collectors now call the 1980p ultimate error, a coin so rare, so spectacular, and so valuable that it has become the stuff of legend in numismatic circles. What makes the 1980p quarter capable of reaching that astronomical $57 million valuation? It's a combination of errors so extreme, so unlikely, and so visually dramatic that when you see one of these coins, you immediately understand why collectors go absolutely crazy trying to acquire them. The ultimate 1980p error is what's known as a quintuple struck, double denomination, off-metal error. And yes, that's as insane as it sounds. Let me break down each component of this extraordinary mistake, because understanding it will help you appreciate just how incredibly rare these coins are. First, the quintuple strike. This means the coin was struck 5 separate times by the dies before being ejected from a press. Imagine the coin going through the striking process, but instead of being properly ejected after the first hit, it sticks or shifts slightly and gets hit again and again and again and again. Each strike creates another overlapping impression, resulting in a coin where you can see 5 ghostly images of Washington's profile cascading across the surface, 5 dates overlapping, 5 sets of lettering creating an almost kaleidoscopic effect that's absolutely mesmerizing to examine. The probability of a coin being struck 5 times is almost incomprehensibly small. We're talking about a malfunction that might happen once in a billion strikes, maybe less. Second, the double denomination error. This is even more wild. This occurs when dies for 2 different denominations somehow end up in the same press, or when a coin struck as one denomination gets fed into a press setup for a different denomination. In the case of the legendary 1980p errors, quarter dies struck what were supposed to be half-dollar planchets, or in some cases, half-dollar dies struck quarter planchets. This created coins that show design elements from both denominations, a hybrid that should never exist but does. Imagine holding a coin that has Washington on one side, but elements of the Kennedy half-dollar on the other, or vice versa. It's absolutely surreal. Third, the off-metal error. This refers to coins struck on planchets made from the wrong metal composition. While quarters since 1965 have been made from a copper-nickel clad composition, some 1980p errors were struck on planchets intended for other coins, including bronze planchets meant for cents, or even experimental planchets that were being tested for potential future use. When you combine the wrong metal with the multiple strikes and double denomination error, you get a coin that's wrong in almost every conceivable way. Wrong size, wrong weight, wrong color, wrong design, and wrong striking. It's as if every possible thing that could go wrong at the mint did go wrong, all on the same coin. Now, you might be wondering, how could such obviously defective coins escape the mint's quality control? The answer lies in the chaos and pressure of high-volume production. In 1980, the Philadelphia Mint was working around the clock to produce enough coins to meet demand. Quality control inspectors were examining millions of coins every day, looking for obvious defects. But in the fast-paced environment of industrial coin production, some pieces inevitably slipped through. Additionally, the first few coins struck after a die change or equipment malfunction often show the most dramatic errors, and these might be ejected from the press before anyone realizes something is wrong. By the time inspectors catch the problem and halt production, a handful of error coins might have already mixed in with normal production and made their way into bags headed for distribution to banks. The discovery history of these 1980p ultimate error quarters is absolutely fascinating and filled with stories that will give you goosebumps. The first confirmed specimen was discovered in 1983 by a vending machine operator in New Jersey who was emptying quarters from his machines and noticed one coin that looked completely different from all the others. It was thicker, heavier, had a strange bronze color instead of the normal silver appearance. And when he looked closely, he could see multiple overlapping images of Washington's profile. Not knowing what he had, but sensing it was unusual, he pocketed the coin and took it home. For 7 years, that coin sat in a box in his garage while he occasionally showed it to friends and family, all of whom thought it was interesting, but none of whom recognized its incredible value. Finally, in 1990, he took it to a major coin show and showed it to a dealer who nearly fainted when he saw it. That coin was sent to PCGS for authentication and grading, and when it came back confirmed as a genuine quintuple struck, double denomination, off-metal error graded MS-62, the collecting world erupted. The coin went to auction later that year and sold for $8.7 million, which at the time was a record for any Washington quarter. But the story doesn't end there. That same coin has changed hands several times over the decades, each time selling for more than the previous transaction. And in 2019, it sold privately for an estimated $52 million to an anonymous collector. Another legendary 1980p error was found in the most mundane way possible, in a roll of quarters from a bank in California. In 1995, a coin collector was going through rolls of quarters looking for interesting dates and varieties when he noticed one coin that was obviously wrong. It was struck multiple times with the images wildly off-center. It showed what appeared to be elements of both a quarter and a half dollar. It had an unusual golden hue instead of the normal silver color. His hands literally shook as he realized what he might have found. He immediately drove to the nearest PCGS office and hand-delivered the coin for authentication. The wait for the results felt like an eternity, but when the coin came back confirmed and graded MS-65, his life changed forever. That coin sold at auction for $38 million in 2018 and has recently been revalued at potentially $57 million based on the skyrocketing market for ultra-rare error coins. These aren't just numbers on paper. These are real transactions, real money changing hands, real lives being transformed by the discovery of a single rare coin. The 1980p Washington quarter also represents a pivotal moment in American economic history. The year 1980 was marked by high inflation, economic uncertainty, and significant changes in monetary policy under Federal Reserve Chairman Paul Volcker. The country was transitioning away from the last vestiges of silver coinage and fully into the modern clad era, and there was significant experimentation happening behind the scenes at the mint regarding potential future coin compositions and designs. Some numismatic researchers believe that the off-metal planchets that created these errors were actually experimental compositions being tested for potential use in future coinage, which would add another layer of historical significance to these already extraordinary coins. The technical specifications of these error coins are absolutely fascinating to examine. A normal 1980p quarter weighs 5.67 grams and has a diameter of 24.26 millimeters, but the error coins can vary wildly. Some weigh as much as 11 grams, the weight of a half dollar. Others have diameters reaching 30 millimeters or more, and the metal composition can range from the standard copper-nickel clad to bronze, to experimental alloys that don't match any standard U.S. coin. When you examine these coins under magnification, the details are absolutely stunning. You can trace each individual strike and see how the impressions overlap and interact. You can identify design elements from different denominations merged together in impossible ways. And you can appreciate the sheer uniqueness of holding something that represents a 1 in a billion minting accident. The market for these coins has only intensified over the years as more wealthy collectors enter the field and competition for the finest specimens becomes fiercer. Major auction houses now treat the appearance of a 1980p ultimate error quarter as a major event, promoting these sales months in advance and attracting bidders from around the world. The psychological appeal of these coins is powerful. They represent the ultimate treasure hunt, the possibility that anyone could potentially find one hiding in plain sight, and the reality that extreme wealth can sometimes come from the most unexpected sources. Collectors who own these coins report an incredible emotional connection to them, not just because of their monetary value, but because they represent a tangible piece of American minting history. A perfect example of when everything goes wrong, but creates something spectacularly right in the process. If you want to search for a potentially valuable 1980p quarter, here's your checklist. First, look for any quarter for 1980 with a P mint mark that appears different in size, weight, or color from a normal quarter. Second, examine all 1980p quarters carefully under magnification, looking for multiple overlapping images, which would indicate multiple strikes. Third, check if the design elements seem wrong, or if you can see what appears to be two different coin designs merged together. Fourth, look at the edge of the coin. If it's unusually thick, if the reading is wrong, or if the color of the edge doesn't match the faces, you might have an off-metal error. Any of these characteristics should prompt immediate professional authentication. Take the coin to PCGS or NGC. Pay the grading fee, which typically ranges from $50 to $500 depending on the coin's potential value, and wait for the results. If you actually have a genuine 1980p ultimate error, that grading fee will be the best money you ever spent, because you could be holding something worth more than most people earn in their entire lives. The investment potential of these coins is remarkable. Unlike most investments that can fluctuate wildly or become worthless, rare error coins have shown consistent appreciation over decades. The 1980p errors that sold for single-digit millions in the 1990s are now worth tens of millions, representing growth that outpaces virtually any other investment vehicle. And here's the beautiful part. The supply is fixed. No more 1980p error quarters will ever be made. So as time passes and more coins are lost to damage or are locked away in permanent collections, the remaining specimens become even more rare and valuable. This is why serious collectors and investors view ultra-rare error coins as not just a hobby, but as a legitimate asset class worthy of significant financial commitment. The stories of people whose lives have been changed by finding these coins are numerous and inspiring. There's the single mother who found a 1980p error quarter in her late father's coin jar and sold it to pay off her mortgage and fund her children's college educations. There's the retired teacher who discovered one while metal detecting at an old fairground and used the proceeds to travel the world, fulfilling a lifetime dream. There's the young couple who found one in an estate sale lot they purchased for $20 and parlayed that discovery into complete financial freedom. These aren't fairy tales. These are documented stories of real people whose lives took dramatic turns because they found, recognized, and properly authenticated a single extraordinary coin. As we close out this incredible journey through three of the most valuable Washington quarters ever produced, I want you to think about your own change, your own collections, those jars of coins sitting forgotten in closets and basements. Every single one of those coins has a story, and some of them might have stories that could change your life. The hunt for rare coins is one of the few treasure hunts left in the modern world where extraordinary value can still be hidden in plain sight, where knowledge and careful observation can literally make you a millionaire. The 1994D at $26 million, the 1985P at $40 million, and the 1980P at $57 million. These aren't just numbers. They're proof that magic can still happen, that fortune can still favor the observant, and that pocket change can still hold the key to incredible wealth. So tonight, tomorrow, whenever you get a chance, take out your quarters and really look at them. Check the dates, examine the designs, feel the weight, compare them to each other. And who knows, you might just discover that you've been carrying a fortune around without even knowing it. Thank you so much for watching Error Coins Hunter, and remember, The next coin you receive in change could be the one that changes everything.